Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to this video. I am Novita Saridianggraini. You can call me Miss Ovi. How are you, class? Okay, so in this video, we are going to learn about the new chapter, which is Analytical Exposition Text. Let's get started. Okay, before we are going to the analytical exposition material, we have our learning objectives here. So after learning this chapter, you are going to be able to identify the social function, generic structure, and language feature of analytical exposition text. You are going to be able to identify the contextual meaning regarding the social function, the generic structure, and the language feature of the analytical exposition text. And then the last one, you are going to be able to compose or create your own analytical exposition text. Let's get started. First, the definition of analytical exposition text. An analytical exposition text is a text that elaborates the writer's view or opinion or position about a certain issue or a certain topic around him or her. An analytical exposition text also evaluates a topic or an issue critically, but focuses only on one side, to support for or to against. If he supports until the end. If he against until the end, okay? Next, we have the social functions. First one, to persuade the readers to look at an issue with the writer's point of view. And then to persuade the readers that the idea is an important matter to discuss. So by making this analytical exposition text, the writer wants to persuade the reader that this topic that he chose earlier is an important matter to discuss, and then he also wants the readers to have the same side as him. If the writer supports and the readers also support the topic, okay? And then we have the generic structure of analytical exposition text. First, thesis. It introduces the topic and contains the writer's view or opinion or position about the topic discussed. This is in the beginning of the text. Thesis is the first paragraph of an analytical exposition text. It contains the topic and the opinion about the topic. And then argumentation. It contains a series of arguments that support the writer's view. Each paragraph has a main point and the elaboration, reasons and evidences to convince the readers. So in these argumentation, there are some arguments. Usually at least there are 3 arguments here. And then each of the argument is made into one paragraph. So if there are 3 arguments, there are 3 paragraphs, okay? And each paragraph contains the argument itself and then the elaboration. What is the elaboration? The elaboration is the example of the argument or the evidence of the argument so that your argument is valid, okay? It is the same with the second and the third arguments, or even the fourth if you have 4 arguments. And then the last one, we have the iteration. The iteration contains the restatement of the thesis. So after you state your opinion in the beginning of the text, in the thesis paragraph, you also restate your point of view in the reiteration, in the conclusion here. And what makes analytical exposition text different from hortatory exposition text is that in the last paragraph, which is reiteration, the writer only restates his opinion without provides without providing the solution or the recommendation to solve the issue. Okay, to solve the topic. Just the opinion about the topic, the restatement. And the gambits that are usually used to make conclusion in reiteration are from the facts above, I personally believe, therefore my conclusion is that, in conclusion, from those reasons, blah blah. And then we have present tense. We use present tense in analytical exposition text because it talks about general truth and facts. For example, television, singular, lets, with S, television lets children see a bigger picture of the world than their own small neighborhood. Violent games cause the children's behavioral problems. Reforestation is a very important process to restore the nature. Motorbikes are the major cause of accident in the road. People don't realize how harmful burning garbage is to their health and their environment. Some people aren't aware of how important social distancing is. Do you know that littering can cause a big problem one day? And then we have causal conjunctions. Because, in, due to, because of. Okay. These four have the same meaning, but the usage are different because and since are followed by cause, clause, due to and because of are followed by noun or noun phrase. For example, I don't go to school because it is raining, and I don't go to school because of the rain. Next we have although, even though, despite, in spite of. Sorry, class. And then this also have the same meaning, but the usage are also different. Although, even though, and though are followed by clause. Meanwhile, despite and in spite of are followed by noun or noun phrase. Whereas in case, for example, whereas the number of the vehicle increases, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the air also increases. Then also we have so that, therefore, consequently, for the reason, as a result, hence, thus. For example, if the wood is exploited, consequently, many animal species lose their habitat. And the plant roots that absorbed the water decrease, thus the flood and soil erosion can easily happen. Causal conjunctions. Okay, next we have connecting words. Connecting words are words used to connect each paragraph with one another. For example, first, second, third, in addition, moreover, furthermore, besides, additionally, finally. So, these connecting words are usually used in the beginning of your arguments. So, for example, for the first argument, you use first, blah blah blah, and then the second argument you can use second or moreover or in addition or furthermore, and then for the last argument you can use finally, blah blah blah. Connecting words to connect. And then emotive words. Emotive words are words that express the writer's emotion so that it can the text can evokes or arouses the writer's emotion. For example, important, critical, valuable, trustworthy, terrible, or maybe disgusting. And then mental verbs. Here we have mental verbs, verbs that are not observable even though they are happening. For example, think, believe, consider, and decide, because people don't know when you are thinking. It's not observable when you are thinking, right? And then persuasive techniques. There are two persuasive techniques, generalization to support the arguments, and evidence and facts. What is generalization? Generalization is when you take an idea that is actually true for someone or some people only some time, but you apply it to them to all of the time. You can see it in the example later. Now let's compose. If you are confused about what you are going to do first when you are going to write a text, you can use these tips. The first one, you just only, write the outline. What is an outline? Outline is only the generic structure of the text. For example, here, analytical exposition text structure, and then you also write each sentence, each one sentence in each generic structure. For example, this one. For thesis, I choose smoking should be banned in public places. Only one sentence. Okay, only one sentence. And then for the first argument, before I add the elaboration, I just write one sentence. Smoking odor travels around the air and filling the room. And then after that, I write the elaboration. I can add the example or evidence or news about that argument. For example, the smells of the smoke filling the workplace or the restaurant is unpleasant. The smells of the smoke on people's clothes or hair is hard to fade. And then the next argument, I also only write one sentence. Smoking ban can provide healthy environment. After that, I write the argument, the elaboration, okay, the example. The secondhand smoke inhaled by non-smokers has as dangerous effect as the smoke inhaled by active smokers. The short-term smoke exposure for non-smokers can cause headache, breathing problems, and nausea. And then the third argument, I choose littering caused by smoking can damage the environment. Firstly, I only write this one sentence before I give the elaboration later. And then I write the elaboration. For example, I think about the example or I search about the news regarding the argument or the evidence or the research regarding my argument so that my argument can be more valid. This elaboration I choose. The disposals of the cigarettes are often thrown carelessly. The disposals of the cigarettes leak toxic chemicals into water and remain for as long as 10 years. It is usually 3 up to 5 sentences in each paragraph, in each argumentation paragraph. The last one, the iteration. I restate my opinion about the topic. From the reasons above, I strongly believe that smoking should be banned in public places. Okay. Okay, and then we have the example of analytical exposition text. Here is the first paragraph. The title is Banning of Motorbikes is Necessary in Housing Areas. The first paragraph is the introduction or the thesis. Okay, you can read it by yourself now. Pause the video. Okay. Here the writer writes, I think motorbikes should be banned in housing areas due to the following reasons. And then the writer also states about the brief reason or his or her brief argument here, because of unreasonable amount of noise, air pollution, diseases, and accidents. Okay. If you look at the language feature, we find mental verbs. Think and believe are mental verbs, and then even though is causal conjunction. Okay. Second paragraph. Read it by yourself. Okay. So this second paragraph is the first argument. I would like to point out that motorbikes are a major contributor to pollution in the world. This is the writer's opinion, the writer's argument, I'm sorry. And then the writer gives the elaboration in a form of research to support his argument. Okay, research here. If you look at the language feature, we find first of all, connecting word, and then consequently, causal conjunction, emit, present tense. The third paragraph, the second argument and the elaboration, read it by yourself. Okay, so motorbikes are also responsible for causing diseases such as bronchitis, cancer, that are a major trigger of asthma and high blood pressure. This is the argument of the writer, and then he elaborates his argument with news here, BBC News 2009. So if you want to include the news or maybe research, usually you have to include this BBC News. For example, you take it from BBC News, you have to write at the end BBC News, comma, and the year when the news was released. Okay, if you look at the language feature here, we find secondly, what is second? Connecting word, and then are, motorbikes are. Here are also present tense. The fourth paragraph, the third argument here, read it by yourself. So here, the writer argues that motorbikes create so much noise. And then he elaborates his argument with expert opinion and research. Okay, if you look at the language feature, we find furthermore connecting word, and then extremely difficult, challenging, arduous, emotive words, and then generalization, parents, babies, children. So although not all parents find that the noise of the motorbikes are challenging, but the writers here chooses to use parents instead of maybe some parents. He chooses to write parents here to generalize and to persuade the reader that this is important matter to discuss. And then the last paragraph, oh no, not the last yet. The fifth paragraph, the fourth argument. Okay, read it by yourself. Here, the argument is that motorbikes are responsible for horrible accidents. Okay. And then there are some cases here regarding the accidents. So the elaboration is in the form of cases or examples. And then if we look at the language feature, we find finally connecting word and then accidents, generalization. Not all accidents are actually caused by motorbikes, but here the writer chooses accidents. Okay, present tense are responsible, motorbikes are. Riders go. Okay, and so on. And then the sixth paragraph, the last paragraph, conclusion or the iteration of the thesis statement. In conclusion, from the arguments above, I strongly believe that motorbikes should be banned from housing areas. So in the thesis one, the writer states that he thinks banning of motorbikes is necessary. And then in the last paragraph, he also states that he strongly believes that motorbikes should be banned from housing areas. Then if you look at the language feature we have in conclusion, this is one of the expressions to make conclusion. And then there is middle verb here, believe. Okay. Okay class, this is the end of this video. I hope you learned something from this video and see you next time. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.